All right. So a few people just hopped on real quick. So Tyler Martin. So Tyler, I think this particular call, this is going to be I think like a breath of fresh air. You're a new guy. Like you haven't been in the business a long time. So I just want to start with just some of the credentials, some of the eye-popping statistics. And then we'll just kind of unpack you and who you are. And obviously, we've been talking briefly about the Kobe Bryant mural over your shoulder there. It's like, oh, that might explain a lot about you. But let's just start off with some stats. So you're a 2-year veteran. You opened in November of 2022. So again, you
Yep.
just started. You're 24 months into running your business. Year one, and you just correct me if I have any of this data wrong, but year one, your ICL generated $1.7 million in revenue. Okay, so that's impressive right off the bat. I mean, that's almost 40 grand wires. You
hmm
promoted three first generation deals that first year too, which a lot of people be like, all right, did you get lucky? And then here you go to year two, where you generated $1.2 million in revenue, so a little bit less, but still, not shabby. So far, all you know is the $1 million club. And now you're running you have 8 owners in your org. So here
hmm
you are 2 years into the business and you're pushing a promotion to OC. So all these stats so far I'm giving are correct. Is that right?
Yeah, the eighth office is going out this week, so yeah, accurate.
Okay. Well, you've got everybody's attention right off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
wow, like you just started and somehow you're knocking on the door of, $1 million, promotion happening here shortly. So let's kind of take it back before the business. So what were you doing before you got involved in the business? And then we'll start unpacking what you've done in the business.
Yeah, so as you see, I'm a big Kobe fan and which means, a lot of the times you either love him as a person or you're a big basketball fan. It was two things for me. I grew up playing basketball. That was a big sport for me. I'm originally from Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is obviously in the east coast of Canada, as far as east as you can possibly get. And I originally started playing Team Nova Scotia basketball as a kid. I played high competitive football. I started playing when I was about 5 years old. So growing up really was sports to me. It was competing. I played on the provincial team, so basically the highest level you could reach in Nova Scotia for sports. I played basketball. I was a dual athlete. I was the first ever captain of my varsity football and basketball team, all in one year. I did track, and my upbringing was really sports focused, school focused. It was how I wanted. My dream was to be a professional athlete. Really, that was my. If you met Tyler at 12 years old, he was telling you he's gonna play both in the NBA and in the NFL. I wanted to play both sports, and yeah, I went to school. I had a lot of different, college offers to play in the AUS. If any of you guys know, that's the Atlantic University Sports, which means like Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. My dream was I always like to dream big, so my dream was to get to Division 1. And in when you're in Canada, it doesn't exposure is huge, especially about 4 or 5 years ago. We didn't really have much exposure. If you were a good athlete, unless you were crossing the border to go to the US, or unless you were in Toronto or Montreal, you weren't getting as much exposure as you needed. So I kind of, after high school, I didn't commit to any universities. I actually went on to go to a CEGEP in Montreal. I wanted to extend, it's more so like a prep school, quote unquote, for Canada, where you can extend another 2 years of your high school. It's like a pre-university school. You can get more exposure from universities in the US. I went to one of the top school football and basketball schools in Quebec. It was called Champlain. I stayed a whole year there. I studied there, played at a really high level, led the league in scoring in basketball as a rookie. Kind of started to get some playing time as a rookie in football. And then actually towards the end of the year, coming into playoffs, I went and got actually a severe injury where I dislocated my ankle, broke my leg. It was devastating for me. I'm like, my basketball, my sports career is done. So I came back to after this year, I finished off the year of school. I came back to Nova Scotia, you know, wanting to take the year off to, you know, recover from my injury and really just to get some working experience. Through that time of the year off, that was probably the honestly, I would say my best and worst year all in one, where I worked every single crappy job you could think of, from working as a dishwasher to doing 12-hour construction to, you know, getting in the restaurant industry as a bartender, working those 12-hour days. And eventually, what I really love about that is I got to experience everything I didn't want to do in my life, where I saw a lot of different adults, like people that were much older than me. I was only 20-year-old kid at the time, and I could see where my future was going if I ended up in this job. So I always wanted to be successful. I was a really driven kid. I wanted, but I didn't know how to be successful. I mean, I grew up, you know, my parents had me at a super young age, around 16, 18 years old when they had me. And, you know, I remember my mom graduated nursing school when I graduated high school. So kind of grew up with young parents that were just trying to figure everything out as well. And I'm very grateful for them because they showed me a lot of good examples, some examples that I didn't, you know, necessarily. They told me what not to do as well. So coming out of that year off after working all those different jobs that weren't necessarily the most ideal jobs and career jobs, I just wanted to get around successful people. So I remember how I found the business is I started looking through marketing companies, and I sent a message. There was a message that said sales rep and marketing agency. So I sent a message. I said, I'm the hardest working 20-year-old kid in all of Nova Scotia. I just want the opportunity to make sales and or to an opportunity to become successful. And I got called in for an interview. Um, didn't really tell me. I didn't really know what was going on in the interview. I was like, they were like, you could be successful, you could be great, you just got to work for it. I'm like, well, this sounds like exactly what I've been looking for. And they're like, all right, we'll team you up with the guy if you want to hit the field. I think it was the middle of February. And they were like, I think you need a jacket. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need a jacket. Middle of February in Canada is probably minus 10 degrees. If anyone, the Americans, I can't calculate the Fahrenheit, but very cold. I declined the jacket about 10 times and went to the field. And after about an hour, I was like, oh, we're meeting with clients. We're helping them save money on their Wi-Fi. And when I came back to the final interview, they told me about the opportunity. They told me that there's as long as you can work full days, keep a good attitude, and they taught me these systems called the 4, 5s, and 8s, which everyone's familiar with. And I looked at the owner. I was like, it can't be this simple, right? Because when I played a lot of sports growing up, and I always thought, and a lot of the times they pick players based on skill, and they always pick players based on politics as well. How good you knew the coach, if you had X amount of money and you could pay and things like that. And to me, I was always afraid to pick a business that I would have to play the politic game. And what really separated this business to me was the owner at the time told me, he's like, you don't have to suck up to anyone. You just have to be yourself, and you have to hit these numbers. And as a results driven person, as a guy who's consistently competing on a day-to-day basis, this is me. I was like, sign me up. I wanted to be successful so bad. I remember I told the owner on the first day, I was like, so what do you need me to do? Because I'll run through the wall every morning if you need me to. I'll put on a chicken suit. I'll dance. Whatever you need me to do to become successful, I'll do it. And I remember he's like, I need you to go knock on doors and help, you know, the older generation save money, and even the younger generation. I'm like, sign me up. Sounds easy. So that's kind of the upbringing for me and how I really got into the business. I don't know if that explains a little bit.
Well, yeah, and maybe I'm curious just based on the fact that I'm a father and I'm raising children. So I
Um,
want to dive a little bit into like what made you so driven, right? So you're saying
mhm.
your parents were very young. Your dad was 18, mom 16. Is that
Yep,
right?
yep, yep,
So obviously super, super young.
yep.
Uh, Siblings? You have siblings as well?
Yeah, I have younger siblings, so yeah,
You're the
all young
you're
siblings.
the
Yep,
oldest
yep.
kid. So like you sound like the perfect candidate. I'm just thinking every owner would love to get a Tyler Martin in his office. I mean, hey, I'm the hardest working, person, hardest working 20-year-old in your state. I mean, who's not going to call that guy back, right? You've come
Yeah.
from a sports background. You were, top dog in basketball and in football, in your
Mhm.
province slash state. I mean, of
Yep.
course it doesn't shock me to hear how well you've done. But
Mhm.
what made you so driven? What made you kind of that Mamba mentality,
Yeah.
relentless type of guy? Like, what do you credit that to?
I really credit that to basically always having something that's bigger than you in a bigger picture, right? When you look at me coming from, a 16-year-old mother, 18-year-old father, like one thing I always say, we had a lot of love and I had a lot of support from my parents. One of the things I didn't have was a lot of resources. I didn't always have the best Christmases. I didn't always have the best clothes, the best things. And to me, I saw how hard my mom worked. She was a nurse. She worked 12-hour days and she took care of, multiple kids. And same thing with my dad. And to me, I saw that it is as inspiration. And what really stuck out to me is I looked around and I always tell guys in my office, if you look at every successful family, right? One of my best friends is, grandfather is, one of the richest guys in Canada. And his grandfather is worth over $2 billion. And if you look at his grandfather's story, his grandfather started at 16, 17 years old, came over to Canada. He worked 12 hours a day every single day for almost 50 years. He's 75 years old and he's still working. So I looked at my family in a sense, and I looked at the sacrifices that my parents had to make just to even for me to be alive and in this situation. And I looked at it and I said, well, every family has that one person that quote unquote sacrifices working hard, dedicating, getting up, pushing through adversity, waking up when they don't want to wake up. And I looked at myself and at that I claimed that and I honored that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be the person that is going to kick down the barriers for my family and my generation. So if I have to work 14, 18-hour days every single day for the next 20 years, then that's exactly what I need to do in order to be able to provide, my family with the, I wouldn't say money, more so the resources where they did not have to stress on where the next meal was coming from or where the next, or if they were going to have to afford their car payments and things like that, right? So to me, it was like, I have to be that person. I need to step up. Everybody wishes they had a super rich father or grandfather, but if you don't, are you going to depend on your brother or sister, or are you going to say, you know what, I'm going to be the person that does it? So I feel like the family was really what motivated me to kind of be the person I wanted to be. And at this level, I'm not nowhere near where I need to be at the moment. And this is really just a step in the journey. I'm happy for all the success or small success we had so far, but I have a lot of work to do. I'm 27 years old. If you look at guys like you and John in the business, you guys are telling me stories that are an hour of 20, 30 years in the business. I'm like, that just fires me up. I'm like, for me to be able to have those same stories, that's what's keeping me motivated on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I would say you need to find that why. Hopefully it's based on your family. If it is in your family that you currently have, maybe it's the family that you're potentially going to grow yourself.
Hmm. Well, it's reciprocated the motivation because, being around guys like you just motivate us big time because like, oh man,
Yeah.
you're relentless. You're young and ambitious and even like when I reached out to you about this call and you sent me a picture, wearing your red jacket, looked a little cold. Obviously, it was a winter jacket. You're in the field. I believe you settled up as like the number one rep on the program and the number one office on the program on Rogers, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so you're just
Yeah.
kind of taking that, I don't know, grandfather billionaire mentality of like, hey, he's still working, he's 75 years old. Like you're not taking your foot off the gas, it appears. Like
Yeah.
you're full speed ahead. I mean, that
Absolutely.
must just kind of rub off on all your guys. I mean, like kind of describe that whole process of being that white rabbit that everybody's chasing.
Yeah, like I think in this business, I say it best, like it's a monkey see, monkey do business, right? You see people becoming successful, you see their work ethic, you see their, determination to get and their attitude when they deal with adversity. And it's like, how do you become one step better? And I always, some people that credit you have such a good work ethic. And I'm like, this is just me. It's not really a work ethic. I feel like a lot of people, they come in the business and they, I would say they compare work ethic based on a timeline. Where for me, I compare my work ethic based on the results that I'm getting, right? So if I'm not getting the results that I necessarily want, if there's something that I'm not doing, I need to put in more effort. I need to put in more work. I need to learn more in order for myself to get better. So you're a product of your surroundings. I'm surrounded by a lot of great people in this business. I don't credit really much of my success really to me. It's more so the mentors, the people around me who are continuously helping me grow and get better. But yeah, absolutely. I feel like you need to lead from the front, especially when you're an owner. You're the example, right? If your guys in your office don't want to be you, you need to get you better, right? So I'm always striving to get better. So my guys, like I can be a good example. I remember my owner, my consultant, like I'm striving to be a better looking and a better version of John Black, right? So in order for me to get there, I have to learn more. I got to get better at interviewing. I got to run a better office. I got to get better promotions out. And you look at the simplicity of our business, and it should become very easy for most people. I wouldn't say easy, I would say simple, because it's hard to do the simple things, where it's showing up every day with a lot of energy. Sounds easy to do. Go crush the field, help people save money. In my quote unquote sense, you're helping people save money. You could be, it's some sort of God's work in a sense. And then on top of that, you're really just getting better so you can get your other guys better. It's like, is it work at this point or is it really just a lifestyle? And I don't consider this business really working hard. I'm really just doing the things that I love doing. I always loved inspiring people. I always loved training people. I always liked hitting targets and goals and, find your purpose, right? And when you create your purpose and you find that purpose, all your guys will follow you and they'll just be inspired to do it as well. But I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what's been, helping me rub off on all my other guys is just leading from the front. I'm like you said, 2 weeks ago, I went back. I went back to the field full time over the last few months to really retrain all my leaders, do exactly what I wanted to do. Not because I wasn't doing $20,000+ wires, because I was more so because I wanted to build the next generation. When you promote out 6 to 8 deals in over 2 year span, a lot of your leaders in your office are going to be second and third generations. Where I was looking around, I'm like, oh, these guys are second and third generations. I need more first generations, because your first generation leaders are trained directly from you. So they're going to learn, your best practices. So I went back to the field. I retrained every single leader in my office just so I could have that. I know they're a direct translation to me when they're out there and they're representing my business and overall the company, right? So leading from the front in every aspect, is from the field to the interview room, is really what is helping me rub off on the rest of the guys who are doing well.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
wow. I mean, that's like a textbook answer that nobody wants to hear, right? Like if I remember being a struggling owner and I called somebody, I won't even say the person's name, but I called somebody. I'm like, hey, how important is it to, go in the field and set the pace as an owner? And he says, Jamie, the only reason you're asking me that question is because you're hoping that I say it's not that important. Spend time in the office, get great recruits for your leaders. That's what you're hoping I say, but you already know the right answer. So you're not making that phone call. You're just doing the right
Yeah.
thing, which is, like you said, it's the simple thing, but sometimes it's hard to do the simple thing, especially when it's, cold outside. It's,
Yeah.
-10 is, 15 degrees Fahrenheit
Yeah.
for the Yankees here that need to know what's going on. Um, I mean, obviously you don't feel like doing the right thing or the simple thing all the time. How do you overcome your, I don't know, the distractions, the emotions? Like you could be sitting a little more comfortable than going in the field, retraining all your leaders.
Yeah.
How do you overcome those emotions?
Those emotions, they're obviously battles that you're going to have for yourself. But to me, I think it all comes down to passion. And that's when I think you texted me and you're like, what's one of the things that are working well for you? And I think like it's the overall passion that I have towards my goals, right? So most people, they're like, well, you come in the business, you're not, no one's passionate right away about going to knock doors in, 15 Fahrenheit weather. No one's going to be passionate about that. If you look at me in my first day or me as a kid, my dream was not to ever do door-to-door sales, right? My dream was to become a business owner. My dream was to see my success touch other people, to provide opportunity, to inspire the next generation, right? So that's my passion. So when you look at like check marks and little objectives that you have to work on and you have to do in order to, I would say accomplish the things that you want to do, you have to have passion in those objectives, right? If you look at guys like Kobe Bryant, right? His passion and he was striving to be the greatest basketball player of all time. So what did he have to do in order to do that? He needed to do 1,000 jump shots a day. He needed to do 10,000 layups. He needed to do all these small little objectives in order to become the overall best basketball player. And we talk about Kobe today, not really based on his accomplishments. It's based on how much skills or how like much effort he put in during practice in order to really gain that overall skill. So I compare that to our business. If I want to be the best owner, if I want to be the best consultant, I need to look at the key objectives that I need to do in order for me to be the best person, which means I need to be one of the best guys ever in the field. Check. I need to be the best guy who can, do the best interviews for new starts and things like that. Check. I need a guy who has the most kick-ass workshops, who can become the best public speaker and motivate people to, be the best version of themselves. Check. So these little objectives that you're doing from the field to the office or things like that, you should have passion in doing those things, because if your goal is organization consultant, which is not my goal at all, it's really platinum consultant, senior national consultant, then you need to do all of the small objectives and you need to master those. If not master, you need to get better at those every single day. And that's what really separates me, is like, I'm always trying to get better at the field. I'm always trying to get better in the interviewing room. I'm always trying to run really good workshops. I'm always thinking the night before is like, how can I get my leaders to feel more empowered tomorrow? How could I get them to be better? So when you're consistently thinking like this, you're going to have passion towards the things that you might necessarily had passion for at the start of your career, which is you might have not have been passionate with the field. You might have not liked the interview room. You might have not liked being able to uplift people. So are there times where sometimes like, I'm tired and, I feel like, what, can I just sleep in or things like that? But you put a lot of responsibility on yourself. You put pressure on yourself. And when you have a big team and when you have people that rely on you, it's much bigger than you. I always tell guys, when you click the snooze button in every morning, you're not hitting the snooze button to get an extra hours of sleep. Like, you're hitting the snooze button on your guys, you're hitting the snooze button on your family, you're hitting the snooze button on your goals, right? So if that snooze button and that extra 15 minutes of sleep is worth, not being able to deliver for your guys, your family, and your goals, where is your priority? Where's your passion? Right? So I feel like that's what's really keeping me motivated, is I really have I have a motor for other people's success, my own success, and of course, all the things that, come with the business, from being a consultant to being an organization, a consultant, to just being an overall mentor, right?
So being a guy who's so passionate about seeing others succeed, how do you handle seeing somebody fail, or let's say somebody put a lot of time and effort into that, like, hey, Tyler, I need to have the conversation with you. This isn't for me. I'm going to move on. How do you mentally handle that?
Yeah, so like I one of the biggest obstacles I feel like in my career so far is being a promoting owner, because I feel like I can run $1 million business, no problem. I can have 20 to 50, 30 reps selling. That's not the biggest issue for me. The actually toughest obstacle I dealt with this year is to being able to duplicate myself and to be able to have everybody succead and win. So kind of it is tough to see people fail, because I always want the best for my guys. And sometimes I always even say, I think I want more for you than you doing yourself sometimes. So how I really deal with the failure, where reps coming into the business or even owners that didn't do well, how I sleep really well at night is I give everybody my 100%. I literally tell my guys I'll answer them any time of the day. They know my priority is getting them to the next level, right? So when I put 100% in my effort into every single guy that walks into the room, whether the sharpest guy you think, whether it's a guy who, just came from a new country to Toronto for the first time, and I sit down there and I mentor him and give him the best version of me, and he doesn't work or she doesn't work out, you know, that's for me. I just can sit down and say, you know what, I gave my all, and I understand that not everybody's going to be a winner in this business or in life in general. But as long as you can impact people for the short amount of time that you have them in front of you, then you can't you can't put your head down, or you can't make yourself feel like bad, or like you failed. It's like, no, I gave my effort to every single person. It's going to work for some people, it's going to stick for some people, it might not, but I'm going to continue to do it, whether you're the sharpest guy who walks in the office, or whether you're a guy or girl who maybe doesn't have the most or a lot of experience or skills, right?
Hmm. It just reminds me, you're bringing back something. When I was a new guy learning the business, one of my old mentors, Paul Goudreau, and it made me think, because he's like, well, my goal, because I got my goal sheet. Here's my goals for the week. Paul, what's your goal? My goal is to get a good night's sleep. And I'm like, what does that even mean? He goes, listen, I used to have people on my team failing because they were just a chip off the old block. I would take shortcuts because I had charisma, so I didn't have to be the example. And then I had people around me that weren't succeeding, and I was ridden with guilt, and I'm tossing and turning. I can't sleep well at night. He says, now I just want to be the role model that if people choose, they all have a free will, they could choose to follow my example and go on to be successful themselves, or they could choose to do the opposite of, but I don't have any guilt and I get a good night's sleep. So it sounds like you've kind of modeled a similar mentality,
Wow.
that you just want to have a clean conscience knowing you gave your best to everybody in your business.
Absolutely. I feel like you couldn't have said it any better. And it's funny how, this business, like, knowledge is passed down by every single person. And I have no idea who you mentioned, but we have such a similar mindset, because he probably taught you this. He probably shared it with John. John has probably shared that with me at some point, and I subconsciously have adapted to that same thing.
Yeah. Well, you can bring up the name to Johnny Black. He knows Paul Goudreau well. We were both trained by Goudreau, so it
Okay.
probably doesn't shock me that I don't even know if John knows that. Like, again, I worked in Paul's office and I got to
Yeah.
ask him that again, just like, here's my goal sheet, Paul. What's your goal? So I'd be curious if John actually knows that particular story. But I think Paul did a good job of, like, emphasizing, like, people are going to choose what they want to choose. Just
Yep.
make sure you're modeling the right behaviors, so you're giving them, the option to choose how to do things right. But if you're modeling how to do things wrong and they're unsuccessful because of you, um, good luck grappling with that when you put your head on your pillow at night.
Absolutely. Couldn't said it better.
Yeah, you really are a breath of fresh air. 27 years old, kicking butt, 8 offices in the org. Just such a great mentality, Tyler. I mean, I know we're almost at time, but what's your Achilles? Like, what's the one hole in your game you're trying to shore up?
Yeah, I would say really just making sure my organization is doing, everybody in my org is doing 15 to $20,000 wires. We have really strong owners. I have probably one of the top two owners in all of Canada in my organization right now. It's more so how do we get every single person from the guy who's doing the least amount of wires to the guy who's doing the 30K wire, right? So that's the biggest challenge this year for me. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I'll never be perfect. I'm always a work in progress, but to be able to promote stronger deals is what my number one focus has been this year. I've been flying to Newfoundland, to New Brunswick, spending weeks to help rebuild certain offices and things like that, and put in the time. I know a lot of owners, they come into the business, they promote a guy, maybe they don't visit him or don't talk to him. So I've been look like the R&R or promoting owner week. I've took so many different tips on how to run an organization better. I've been doing org calls. I've been doing all rep calls. I've been doing one-on-one sessions to try to get my other guys to perform well, because I feel like there's a couple different things that you need to tackle before you become an organizational consultant. The first one is, how do I run a good sales office to begin with? Before you can even think about promoting a deal, it's like, how do I eventually become a really good office? And then it's like, okay, how do I promote another really good office? How do I duplicate myself? And then you have one really good office and you're like, okay, this is starting to become a little bit easier. And then you get your second office and you get your third office, and then some guys start to slip and you now become the responsibility for, their offices. And that's been the challenge for me, is being able to hold my guys accountable, making sure I'm consistently following up with them on a basis, and at the same time running a high performing office, right? As you know, as you have so many different offices, you're getting phone calls, and for me, I have an office in Newfoundland and I have an office in BC. So I get calls from my owner. It's 7:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. It's 3 o'clock in British Columbia. So I'll get a call early in the day, and then my guys in the BC and in Alberta, they'll get out of the field around 11, 12 o'clock Eastern, and I'll start answering calls and doing one-on-one sessions with some of the reps out there. So which I love doing. That's why the passion comes in. But I would say, yeah, the holes in the game currently, or I'd say the things that I'm working on, is really just becoming the best promoting owner possible, getting every single person hitting numbers and succeeding at a high level. That's really it.
Hmm. Well, you're a stud, Tyler. Just totally unrelated. I'm just curious. Newfoundland has their own weird time zone where they're 30 minutes ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So how does anybody in Newfoundland get their mind wrapped around their weird time zone, like 30
Yeah,
minutes
they're
ahead?
an hour and a half actually from Eastern time, because they're an hour ahead of Atlantic and then a half an hour ahead of Atlantic. So yeah, it's really, every time I go there, it's like a super weird time frame, because I'm calling people at, like, I'm thinking it's 6 o'clock, but really it's 4:30. Um, my grandparents, they live in Newfoundland. They love it. It's such a small, like they call it the Rock. Some of the nicest people in the world. So, if you ever ask them that question, they probably say, just because, bye. That's how they talk.
Just because by?
They call everyone, if like they call, hey, bye, how you doing, bye? Like that's the the expression they use after every single time they like greet somebody.
Huh. What's a buy?
I don't know. It's like, hey, bye, how you doing, bye? Good to see you, bye. That's it.
Huh.
That's what they do. I learned that when I went over there for the first time, and everyone, they said, hey, bye. I said, no, my name's Tyler. They're like, no, everyone's a bye around here. I'm like, okay. But they'll let
Oh.
you in their house and they'll cook you a nice dinner if you want to.
I mean, there's crazy story like way back. Again, talk to Johnny Noir about this stuff.
Yeah.
When you talk to the old school guys that set up this business and they were going door to door, there's stories of, yeah, in
Yeah.
Newfoundland, you wouldn't go knock on the door. You'd actually open the door, sit down in their living room, and then make the presentation. I'm like, get out of here. There's no way. Because I think,
Yeah.
coming from Saskatchewan, the nicest people are from Saskatchewan. Like, no, dude, Newfoundland has the nicest people in the world. You wouldn't even knock on the door. You'd just sit yourself in their living room.
Yeah. To
Have
this
you
day,
tried
they're
that?
like, come inside right away. I'm like, wow. Don't get me wrong. That's not how it is in Toronto in my market,
No,
not
no,
at all. But that market is the people are great.
no. I wouldn't dare challenge any of my reps in Los Angeles to like, why don't you try that in try that in LA, see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
No, we
No,
won't do that here. But
no.
Tyler, we're going to have you again in the near future. Again,
Yeah.
I like your style. I like your background. I mean, and you just got that relentless. I'm sure you've read that book by Tim Grover, Kobe
Yep.
Bryant's old, mental trainer more than anything. I mean, you
Yeah.
embody the Mamba mentality so well. I just love that. So
Well, yeah, thank you so much. I've been watching your podcast for so long. My reps in my office, they always talk about your podcast. We play it in leaders meetings. I watched your video about how to get better at interviewing. So, you've been an inspiration to me for a long time. I know we haven't had a lot of conversations, and I know we recently, got to talk a little bit more at Promoting Owner Week. But when I look at a Canadian that has seen a lot of success, built Canada, and then on top of that, moved to the U.S. and built a whole other organization. That's exactly the same footsteps that I've been striving to get. My mindset, my goals is, hey, let me build Canada up, get promoted to consultant, and let me get to the U.S. and start competing against the U.S. guys and building a whole brand new organization. So I have this vision where after I hit organization and consultant, I'm going to make a phone call. Who's ever has a U.S. passport in my organization, we're going to go pick a state wherever they want us at, and I'm just going to go back and rebuild a whole other org, just like I was a brand new rep. Go to the field, do the training room, and restart. And hopefully I can duplicate that same success and get promoted to, senior national consultant just like you.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and no doubt you'll do it. So if there's anything I can do to help you on that journey, let me know if you need any help with immigration, all that stuff. Trust me, the US
Yeah.
government will love you. You're going to bring in so much tax revenue. They're like, oh, red carpet welcome, Tyler. Come on down. We'll take all the tax money you have to offer. So they're all
Yeah. I hope so. The US elections are coming up, so we gotta, hopefully they'll let me in. I'm hoping so.
Oh yeah, I mean, no matter what happens in the world of immigration, I mean,
They'll
this
let a
country,
they'll let a
like think
nice
about it.
Canadian.
Elon Musk, you think the United States government likes guys like Elon Musk? I mean, I think he's got the record for the highest income tax returns of all time, where he paid
Yeah,
billions, in one year for for his income. But no, they'll always, take an immigrant like you.
yeah,
You're a job creator. I mean,
yeah,
you create jobs, you put people to work. You're part of the solution. So no
yeah,
matter where somebody's at in the political spectrum,
yeah.
everybody loves job creators, no
I
doubt.
love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Well, thanks so much, Jamie. I appreciate it. Honored to be, to talk and to share my story. And feel free. I'm always open to jump on any calls and be a part of anything that you guys are involved with.
beautiful. Thank you, Tyler. We
Cool.
appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.